All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are really diving into something, a viral piece of commentary that's, well, it's more than just a critique. It's a full-on attack on UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. So what we're going to do is break down the arguments piece by piece to see exactly how this whole thing was put together. So the source material we're looking at is from Talk TV, and it kicks off with this incredibly raw, emotional statement. I mean, wow, it really sets the tone. But the big question is, right, what's the argument behind all that anger? Let's dig in and unpack the claims that are really fueling this thing. Okay, so where did this all start? Let's get right to the specific moment that really lit the fuse on this whole firestorm. And believe it or not, it all comes down to one single, really short video clip of the Prime Minister. And this is it. This is the statement that the commentators just latch onto. Now, Starmer said this in Westminster Hall, and on the surface, it seems pretty straightforward, right? It's just a clear statement that the UK wasn't involved in a recent military action. But, and this is so important, it's the way they interpret this statement that changes everything.
See, according to the people in this clip, this wasn't just him stating a fact, no way. They frame it as him being desperate and almost proud to say it, as if he's boasting about not being involved. And that specific interpretation, well, that's the launchpad for every single argument that follows.
So let's track this. How do they take this one little moment and blow it up into something way, way bigger, something almost historical? Well, the main theme, the one they just keep coming back to over and over again, is this idea of national embarrassment. The argument is that by publicly distancing the UK from its allies, Starmer is making Britain look weak, turning the whole country into, and this is a direct quote, a laughingstock on the world stage. And this phrase right here, he is no Churchill. Wow, it just perfectly sums up that whole feeling. The source makes a point of saying that this exact phrase was splashed all over the front pages of major newspapers. It basically became the rallying cry for this entire wave of criticism. Okay, so you have to ask why. Why do these commentators think the Prime Minister is doing this? They argue it has absolutely nothing to do with some grand foreign policy strategy. Nope. For them, it's all about pressure he's facing at home. Good old domestic politics. And they lay out two very specific reasons why. Two fears, really, that they say are driving his politics. First, on the left here, you've got his own party. They claim he's trying to appease a very, very angry wing of the Labour Party that wants to pull everything much further to the left. And then, on the other side, there's the voter bloc. The argument is that he is just terrified of losing the Muslim vote to other parties, something they say we saw hints of in local elections. So the conclusion from the source is that his choices aren't about what's best for the country, but about managing these two internal fears. And all of this, according to the source, leads to a huge geopolitical problem. It's damaging the so-called special relationship with the United States. That super close historical alliance that covers everything from politics to the military. And as proof, they point straight to criticism from former U.S. President Donald Trump. The fact that Trump is out there mocking him as no Churchill is used as Exhibit A that respect for British leadership is, well, disappearing at the very highest levels in America. The commentators then try to connect the dots, laying out what they see as a clear pattern of this relationship going downhill. They bring up this moment from last year when the PM was apparently kept out of the loop on a major U.S. military strike. Then you have this week's statement, which they see as the next step in the wrong direction. And all of this leads them to a pretty stark conclusion, that the relationship is now irreparably damaged, at least for the next few years. So, at this point in the commentary, the whole thing just explodes. It pivots from that one specific foreign policy moment to, well, pretty much everything else. It becomes this huge list of domestic complaints and anxieties about the state of Britain right now. And this is where you can really see the rhetorical trick, right? That initial clip about Iran, it's used as a gateway to all this other stuff. Suddenly, his supposed weakness on the world stage is connected to everything else. The economy being on its ass, net zero rubbish driving up bills, borders that are basically open, and a pathetic military. It all gets bundled together. Now, what's interesting here is that even though all the anger is directed at Starmer right now, the source does spread the blame around a bit. They argue that the UK's defenses being in a pathetic state, that's not a new problem. They say it's a long-term failure that goes back 20 years, affecting every single government during that time. And this quote, which comes from a caller on the show, really just sums it all up. It boils down to the ultimate conclusion they're pushing. A deep, fundamental distrust of the Prime Minister's priorities, his character, his real motivations. So, after breaking all that down, we're left with a really big question, aren't we? Is all this outrage really truly about Keir Starmer and his leadership? Or is he just a lightning rod, a focus point for much deeper anxieties that people have about the country, about the economy, security, and Britain's place in a really fast-changing world? That's the thought this commentary really leaves you with.